After his death, Uncle Jake was given several awards, medals, and ribbons for his service to his country. As I mentioned in the previous video, he was awarded the Purple Heart. That was awarded on May the 17th, 1945, and while the Purple Heart medal itself is not available to me at this point, I do have a photo here of the certificate that accompanied his Purple Heart. In January of 1947, he was awarded the World War II Victory Medal, as you can see here. The letter that accompanied that medal reads in part, "Dear Mrs. Trees, the Chief of Naval Personnel has the honor to forward herewith the award of the World War II Victory Medal, made posthumously to your son, the late Jake Trees, Motor Machinist Mate 2nd Class, United States Naval Reserve." In June 1949, Uncle Jake was awarded the Navy Unit Commendation Ribbon Bar. This was awarded to all of the crew of the USS LST-348. And again, the letter that accompanied this ribbon reads, "Dear Mrs. Trees, the Secretary of the Navy has awarded the USS LST-348 the Navy Unit Commendation for meritorious service in action against enemy aircraft, shore batteries, submarines, and mines during the following operations: the invasion of Sicily, July 9 to 11, 1943, the Salerno landings, September 8 to 11, 1943, the Anzio landings, January 22 and 26, 1944, February 19 and 20, 1944. The Chief of Naval Personnel takes pride in forwarding the Navy Unit Commendation Ribbon Bar, to which your son, the late Jake Trees, Motor Machinist Mate 2nd Class, United States Naval Reserve, was entitled by virtue of his service in the above cited unit during one or more of the periods for which cited." In addition to those awards, Uncle Jake was also awarded a medal for the European, African, Middle Eastern campaign, photo of which you can see here. And then also a medal for the American campaign, which is pictured here. During the months-long Anzio campaign, many of the LSTs were designated to act as supply and minor repair tenders at the beachhead in Anzio. Barbara Brooks Tomblin, in her book With Utmost Spirit, describes it this way: "The first such ship to be sent to Anzio was LST-348, which on January 23, 1944, left Naples for Anzio, where she was assigned to serve as a clearinghouse for survivors of ships sunk off the beachhead and for wounded en route to Naples. She also had a role as a mother hen for the covey of thirsty, hungry chicks that averaged 20 a day. Soon after her arrival, LST-348 got her first taste of winter. Foul weather off the beachhead on January 25th caused a tug to break loose from her moorings and collide with the LST, gouging a hole in her water tank. Later in the day, a 6-inch line fouled her port screw, and until divers could unfoul it, the ship had the use of only one propeller. She took all those inconveniences in stride and operated for the next 10 days in a crippled condition, surrounded by dozens of small craft, which made her a tempting target, of course, for Luftwaffe bombers. Beginning on January 27th, LST-348 endured 2 days of repeated air attacks. Quote, "During this interval, LST-348 was the object of a number of direct air attacks during one of which 6 bombs were released, 2 falling about 75 yards off the bow, 2 20 yards off the port beam, and 2 50 yards off the stern, unquote, her skipper, Lieutenant Stevenson Jennings, USNR, wrote. On January 30th, Jennings took the ship farther south and anchored off the beach, but this only put her within range of enemy shore batteries. Several days later, German gunners found her range. 3 near misses splashed down around the hapless LST, splattering her with shrapnel. To the intense relief of LST 348's crew, LST 377 showed up late on February 6th as her replacement, and LST 348 was able to depart for Pozzuoli the next morning. Okay, so we've gotten a good bit done since the last update. As you can see, we've got the decals on the hull. I'll show you the rest in just a minute, but got that done. And then as you can see, we've got the superstructure on. The stern anchor is on. The gun is on the back, and there's the winch and the pulleys there on the stern. The 4 guns on the superstructure are on. The davits are on. That would be these. These are what the landing craft will hang from once we get there, and I'll show you the landing craft in just a minute. Let me turn it, see it from this angle. See the davits there on either side, so there'll be 2 landing craft. And you see there the ladders, or the stairways, ladders there. It's kind of hard to see it from here, but there is the spare prop. Propeller is there, and then spare anchor is there. Here's the decal on the starboard side at the stern, and we can see there that we had a little bit of an issue with the decal not laying down all the way right in here, but I figured that's probably a good place to put a just some weathering, maybe some scraped paint there, so we'll take care of that. And then just move on down. There's the decals on the aft part of the hull there and there. Then pull over the landing craft here. Here's one of the landing craft. You can see that there are decals that we placed there on either side. That's landing craft 2. And landing craft 1. Overall, the decals that I made and printed out went on fairly well. Pretty pleased with them. There's a little bit of silvering on them, but hopefully with all of the weathering we plan on doing, that will be taken care of or not be too noticeable. So on to the next part. So we've begun to do a little bit of weathering on the ship, and I'm not sure how well this comes out, but if you'll notice there, on the bow, we got a little bit of maybe a little bit of rust stain there, and we did that on either side. We just used I believe it's the dark rust from the Panzer Aces, the Vallejo paint. Just made a wash out of it and spread that on. And then moving on to the deck, you can see on the ramp there, we did kind of went over that with a wash of the Tamiya smoke, and then hit it in some spots with the dark rust color. Also added some light rust to the intakes. Did that all the way down the deck. Can just imagine these intakes, pulling in the air with it's just salty, and so I could imagine that there would be rust on those intakes, and so that is kind of the reasoning behind that. Did a little bit of weathering on the bits there. Believe used a black wash on those, and then hit those with the dark rust as well. Did a little bit of a black wash on the winch on both ends. Have done a little bit of weathering with the black wash on the exhausts. For the hatchways, I had already hit those with the black wash, and it doesn't come out really clear on the video, but we did go over those a little bit with the dark rust, especially around the hatchway, the doors themselves, and so there's that. And so got a good bit more weathering to do on it, especially back towards the superstructure and around the gun tubs and some of these other parts. And so got a good ways still to go, but we're making progress. Okay, so the weathering process continues. You can see there that we've laid in a little bit of black wash around the edges of the gun tubs. Added in some, just a combination here and there of the light rust and the dark rust to the mooring bits around the bow bulwarks there on the edges, around the bases of the gun tubs on either side. Then some weathering around the exhaust, around the bases. I painted the bases of them with the metallic gray, and then laid in a wash of the light rust. So as we move back here, you can see on the mooring bits there, we did just some runoff, kind of a rusty water looking runoff. And as I've said over and over throughout the building of this video, this is not meant to look like a new ship, but this ship was a workhorse, and so I really want it to reflect that. So we did a little bit more of weathering, rusting on the ramp there, and again moving back, a little more rust around the intakes there, and around the mooring bits on the sides. Just keep moving back here, just little by little, just kind of following our pattern back here. Um, there, that was actually a glue spot. So I decided to add a little bit of maybe what maybe some damage there to the hull, or to the deck rather. So just try to cover up my mistake there with a little bit of weathering. Again, there's some weathering around the exhaust there, and then let me just turn it a little bit. There again, another glue spot. So we added in some weathering there, just to kind of cover that up. Again, black wash around the edges of the gun tubs. We'll go in and kind of fix that up a little bit better as we go along. Some rust around the supports there for the deck house, and the gun tubs on top of the deck house. Just did a kind of that was Tamiya smoke, a wash on the top of the pilot house there. And as you can see, there's more rust and more rust. Got the davits kind of weathered up. Light's not coming through real great on that, but again, more rust. And so that is kind of where we are as far as in our weathering process. Kind of weathered up the mast there some, and a couple of this here, be the smoke vent. I'll add some soot looking weathering around the top of that. And this particular, if I can find it, this is also another smoke vent, and so that will get a little bit more soot as well. So that's where we are.